For my birthday, my mother-in-law sent me a box of handcrafted Turkish chocolates in a refrigerated package. The next day, she called and asked, "So, how did you like our favorite Turkish treats?" So, my 35th birthday started out simple enough. No big parties, no friends flying in, nothing extravagant. Just me, my wife Riley, and a lazy Saturday morning in our house outside Seattle. I wasn't expecting much. A few texts, maybe a call from my brother. Riley promised she had a surprise for dinner, so I figured takeout or maybe one of her fancy home-cooked meals. I'm not hard to please. And then a box showed up. Not just any box, a sleek, matte black gift box, tied with a silver ribbon, nestled inside a mini cooler packed with dry ice. The return label just said Maureen. That's Riley's mom, my mother-in-law. Now, look, Maureen and I weren't exactly besties. She's the type of woman who could turn a compliment into a low-key insult without even blinking. Everything with her was performative. Polite smiles that didn't reach her eyes, passive-aggressive comments that floated like perfume in the air. So yeah, a birthday gift from her was suspicious. But when I opened it, gourmet chocolates, the kind that probably cost more than our monthly utility bill. Imported, glossy, each one tucked into its own little golden tray with tiny handwritten tags. Riley peeked over my shoulder. Her eyes lit up. "Oh wow," she said. "My mom really went all out, huh?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "Kind of weird." She rolled her eyes. "You're always so dramatic. Just eat them already." Something about the way she said that made my skin crawl. I know that sounds dramatic, but trust me, there was something off. So I didn't eat them. I stuck them in the fridge and figured I'd try one later, maybe after dinner. Fast forward a few hours, I went out to walk our dog, grab a coffee, and when I came back, the box was gone. I found Riley in the living room, flipping through Netflix like nothing happened. "Hey," I said casually, "you seen those chocolates?" She didn't look up. "Oh, yeah, I tried them. They were amazing." "You ate them?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She shrugged. "You weren't going to. I didn't think you'd mind." My stomach tightened. Not because I was mad about the candy, but because Riley doesn't even like sweets. Like, seriously. She orders black coffee, skips dessert, and once told me chocolate gives her headaches. And now she'd just casually eaten an entire $200 box of truffles that weren't even hers? I didn't say anything right then. I just nodded and let it go. But something in me snapped awake. The next morning, I got a call from Maureen. It was early, like 7 a.m. early. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hi, Nate," she said cheerfully. "How was the birthday?" "Good," I said slowly. "Thanks for the chocolates." There was a pause, a beat too long. "Chocolates?" she repeated, her voice suddenly sharp. "Yeah," I said. "The ones you sent." Riley said they were great. Another pause, and then her voice cracked. "Wait, what do you mean Riley ate them?" Now I was the one pausing. "She said she had a few last night." "What?" Maureen went dead silent for a second, and when she spoke again, her voice was shaking. "Nate, listen to me very carefully. Those weren't for her. I mean, I sent them specifically for you." I blinked. "Okay, but why?" Maureen stumbled over her words. "They were, a blend. Special ingredients. You have dietary issues, right?" I called the company and worked with them to custom make a mix you could digest. Now that was news to me. "No offense," I said slowly, "but you've never exactly cared about my diet before." "Nate," she said, low and frantic. "I need to know how many she ate." "I don't know," I said. She said all of them. Then silence. Long tense. Frozen. "Oh my God," she whispered. And right then, as if on cue, Riley called me. I stared at the screen, her name glowing like a warning. Everything in my gut screamed that something was wrong. I picked up. Before I could even say, "Hello," she blurted, "Nate, you didn't tell her I ate the chocolates, did you?" My heart dropped. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a weird birthday gift. This was something way, way darker. I didn't answer Riley right away. Her voice was sharp, too sharp. Not "oops, I accidentally ate your candy" sharp, more like "you just lit the match" sharp. "Nate," she said again, quieter. "You told her." "I didn't know it was a state secret," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. She sighed, And for a moment, I heard her breathing shaky, like she'd just run up a flight of stairs or was holding back something heavier than words. "What did she say?" Riley finally asked. "She panicked," I said bluntly. "Said the chocolates were made for my diet, that they were custom blended. And then she asked how many you ate like it was life or death." Riley didn't respond. "Riley," I said, my voice firmer, "what's going on?" She stayed silent. Then she hung up. Just like that. Call ended. I stood in the kitchen for a moment, phone still in my hand, feeling the room shift around me. Something wasn't right. And not in the awkward in-law kind of way. In the I might have just watched a red flag wave itself into a tornado kind of way. So I did what I do best when I start to spiral. I started digging. First stop, the trash can. I found the chocolate box, still cold from the fridge, buried under paper towels and coffee grounds. The packaging was spotless. Sleek logo. No mention of ingredients on the outer label, just a gold-stamped brand name. Lure Fine Confections, exclusive reserve. Sounded expensive. Sounded curated. Sounded sketchy. There was a QR code on the side, so I scanned it. It didn't take me to a normal site. No product listings. No Shop Now page. Just a locked profile portal asking for a code. What kind of chocolate brand hides behind a login screen? I called Maureen. She didn't answer. No voicemail. No reply to texts. I tried again, this time from a different number. Still nothing. So I called the company. Except there was no company. At least, not online. No Yelp page. No reviews. No address. Just that one domain, the QR link. And even that was behind digital gates. I felt my pulse rising. This was supposed to be a gift. But now, I couldn't even verify it existed. That night, I barely slept. Riley didn't come home. She didn't call, didn't text. Max, our lab, kept pacing around the apartment, unsettled by the tension he could feel but not explain. I ended up crashing on the couch, my laptop open beside me, still trying to trace any lead on Lure Confections. By 3 a.m., I found something. A small thread on a private food forum. Mostly chefs, nutritionists, food scientists. Buried halfway down the comments, someone mentioned a Lure-exclusive product that used experimental compounds for metabolic research, paired with chocolate to disguise taste and reduce rejection by test subjects. Test subjects? Was this some kind of supplement scam? Or was it worse? The next morning, Riley walked in like a ghost. Pale. Unbrushed hair. Still in the same hoodie from the day before. I sat at the kitchen counter. She walked past me, headed straight for the sink, and poured herself a glass of water. "You want to explain now?" I asked. She froze mid-sip. "I don't know what to say." "Start with what was in those chocolates," I said. "And why your mother acted like she laced them with uranium." She closed her eyes. And for a second, I thought she was going to collapse. "Instead," she said, "they weren't dangerous." "Not to you." "Then why panic?" She looked at me with tired eyes. "Because they weren't meant for me." "Okay, yeah, we've established that. But why?" She walked slowly to the table and sat down across from me. "They were part of a clinical project my mom was funding. Something about gut biofeedback and behavior regulation. She works with this group, off the books. Supplements masked as luxury food. Experimental stuff." My blood ran cold. "You're telling me she sent me unapproved medical food as a gift?" Riley nodded. "She thought it would help. She always said you could use some adjustment." I told her it was insane. I thought she was bluffing. "Adjustment," I repeated, the word catching in my throat. She believed it could change emotional triggers, she whispered. "Make you calmer. Less anxious. Less resistant." That's when I realized. It wasn't just a gift. It was a test. They wanted to change me. Control me. All without my knowledge or consent. And then it hit me. Riley ate the chocolates. Not me. She didn't just steal a birthday gift. She ingested something that was never designed for her. "You don't know what you put in your body," I said slowly. She blinked. "I didn't think. You didn't think at all." And that's when her face changed. She didn't cry. Didn't rage. She whispered one word. "Call Detective Grant." The second Riley said, "Call Detective Grant," I froze. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. There was a real fear in her voice. Like she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Like saying his name out loud had summoned something bigger than either of us. "Who is Detective Grant?" I asked. She rubbed her hands together, trying to warm herself even though the house wasn't cold. Her lips trembled before she answered. "He helped us. Once. A few years ago. Us. My mom," she said. "She had this situation. Something with her company's testing protocols. There was a whistleblower. Grant got involved. He never filed charges, but he made her shut it down." "Let me guess," I said. "That's when she went private." "No oversight." Riley nodded. "And she still kept experimenting?" Her silence said everything. I didn't wait. I searched for Detective Grant right there, standing in the kitchen while Riley stared at her hands. I found his name listed on a local investigative team's archives site. Retired now, but still active in private consulting. 2 emails. 1 cell number. I called. It went a voicemail. I tried the second number. Still nothing. Finally, I sent a text. "Hi. My name is Nate. I believe I was unknowingly given an unregulated compound as part of an experimental gift. The person involved is Maureen Ellison. I think she's connected to your past investigations. Please call me." I didn't expect a response right away, but I got one. Less than 10 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mr. Reed." The voice was gravelly, controlled. "This is Grant. What the hell did she do this time?" And just like that, everything got real. I gave him the short version, the chocolates, the packaging, Maureen's reaction, Riley's confession, the obscure chocolate company I couldn't find anything about online. He listened without interrupting. Then he said, "Don't throw that packaging away. Don't touch the fridge. I'm on my way." "Wait, you're in Seattle?" "I am now." Grant arrived an hour later. Late 50s, black coat, eyes that looked like they'd seen one too many corporate boardrooms blow up. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. He opened the box carefully using latex gloves he brought himself. "This looks familiar," he muttered. "You've seen this before?" He didn't answer directly, just pulled out a small light and scanned the inside of the lid. Under the beam, a symbol glowed faintly, a triangle wrapped around an eye. "What the hell is that?" I asked. "Prototype branding," he said. "Biotech groups use invisible ink markers like this when they're off registry. Easier to trace internally if someone leaks a product." My skin crawled. "This was a test product?" "Oh yeah," Grant said. "One Maureen was warned to never distribute again." Riley came down the stairs then, still looking pale. Grant turned to her. "How many did you eat?" "3, she said softly. "Any headaches? Changes in sleep? Emotional swings?" "I've been having vivid dreams," she said. "And I threw up yesterday morning." Grant looked grim. "You need blood work. And you need it now." He pulled out a contact card and scribbled an address on the back. "Go here. Quiet lab. No insurance trails. Tell them I sent you." Riley nodded and grabbed her coat. When she left, Grant turned to me. "This wasn't about your health," he said. "It was about obedience. That's what the compound was designed for, neural conditioning under stress. Microdosing people with high-functioning anxiety to suppress their resistance reflex." My stomach turned. "You're saying she was trying to train me?" "In her mind," he said. "She was helping." Grant told me the rest as we sat in the living room, the chocolate box sealed inside an evidence bag between us. Maureen had once funded a fringe biotech startup called NeuroVita, a company that pitched emotional alignment therapy for corporate leaders. Basically, pills that made people more cooperative during negotiations or leadership transitions. It was outlawed in 2 states. After a whistleblower leaked test results, showing side effects like memory loss, emotional flatlining, and dependence, the company vanished. Or rather, Maureen helped it disappear, funneling the remaining research into a private network of researchers. That was 2 years ago. Now, apparently, she was back at it, using gourmet chocolates as delivery systems. And this time, she didn't just pick any test subject. She picked her son-in-law. I sat there, silent, staring at the wall. My hands felt cold. My head felt heavier than it had all day. "They were going to change me," I said aloud. "Yes," Grant said. "And Riley. She may not have known what was in them," he said. "But she didn't stop it either." "And now?" I asked. He looked at me. "Now, you choose what kind of story this becomes." I didn't sleep that night. After Grant left with the sealed chocolate box and Riley was curled up in bed, quiet, shaken, possibly still processing, I sat on the back porch staring into the darkness. There was no wind, no traffic sounds, just the occasional bark of a distant dog and the dull thump of my own pulse in my ears. Maureen had tried to manipulate me, not emotionally, not socially, biochemically, through food, on my birthday. And Riley? She didn't just eat the chocolates. She covered for her mother, lied, maybe out of fear, maybe out of habit. But the betrayal sat in my chest like a brick. And now I needed answers, not whispers, not panic, face to face. The next morning, I drove to Maureen's estate, a pristine glass and stone monstrosity perched on the edge of a gated community 30 minutes north of Seattle. I hadn't been there in months. The last time was for a brunch Riley insisted we attend. Maureen had served lavender scones, wore pearls at 10 a.m., and asked if I was still working on those little engineering projects. I rang the bell. A soft chime echoed inside. After a long pause, the door opened. She looked surprised, but only for a second. "Nathan," she said, perfectly composed. "To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" I didn't answer. I walked right past her and into the house. She didn't stop me. In the living room, I turned to face her. "I spoke to Detective Grant," I said. Something flickered behind her eyes, irritation, maybe, or regret, but not guilt. "That man is obsessed," she said. "He's been after me for years, always painting things worse than they are." I held up my phone. "I know about Neurovita, about the compound, about your little experiments with mood manipulation." Her lips twitched. She walked to the bar cart, poured herself a glass of sparkling water. "Nate," she said calmly, "do you understand what stress does to a marriage? To a man's health? You were wound so tight, you were bound to snap eventually. I was offering help, without telling me. I didn't think you'd be open to it," she said, sipping. "You always resisted. Guidance. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You poisoned me." "Oh, don't be dramatic," she snapped. "It was safe, controlled. I worked with a team of professionals. You would have felt better within weeks, calmer, more receptive, more confident. It's science. It's manipulation." She laughed short, cold. "You think every pharmaceutical commercial is upfront about side effects? You think people aren't tweaked every day by what they eat, drink, watch? At least I tailored yours to your personality." My stomach turned. "You didn't just cross a line," I said. "You built a whole mansion on the other side of it." Then I dropped the bomb. "Riley ate the chocolates." That stopped her. "What? She ate them? All of them? Without knowing what they were?" Maureen's mouth parted. No, she didn't." "She did," I said. "And now she's sick. Headaches, nausea, vivid dreams. She's terrified. She wasn't supposed to." Her voice broke for the first time. "Good. Let her feel it. You didn't just screw with me," I said. "You hurt your own daughter." Maureen sat down. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked small. "I didn't mean for that to happen," she whispered. I stood there, staring at her. This woman who thought she could design people like dinner menus, who believed her power made her righteous, who smiled through cruelty like it was class. "You know what's wild?" I said, stepping closer. "If you had just left us alone, just stayed out of our lives, none of this would have happened." She looked up. "You're going to the press?" she asked. No, that surprised her. "Then what do you want?" I walked toward the door. "To make sure this never happens again." Before I left, I turned back one last time. "Your legacy won't be your wealth," I said. "It'll be your need to control everyone around you, and the people you destroyed in the process." Then I walked out. I called Grant as soon as I got to the car. "She admitted everything," I said. "She always does," he replied. "And just enough vagueness to stay out of prison." "What now?" "I've got enough to reopen the old files," he said. "With what she's done to Riley, there's a case. Maybe even a public one. You just gave us a missing piece." That night, Riley sat across from me at the table. She hadn't said much since her appointment. She picked at her food. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "For eating the chocolates? For defending her? For acting like it wasn't a big deal? For lying?" I nodded slowly. "I don't know what to do with this," she added. "I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore." "You do," I said. "You just have to choose who you want to be from here." And for the first time in weeks, she didn't look terrified. She looked ready. The first headline hit 2 days later. "Seattle heiress under investigation for illegal human experimentation." And right under it, Maureen Ellison's face. Flawless makeup. Pearl earrings. A photo from some gala, back when she still smiled for cameras. Now it was attached to words like unregulated biotech trials, coercion, and federal oversight evasion. Riley sat frozen on the couch, the TV remote still in her hand. The local station was looping the story every hour. They showed the chocolate box. A close-up of the packaging. A blurred copy of the ingredients list pulled from leaked lab documents. It was all out now, and we weren't in control anymore. Grant called me later that morning. "This is going to get ugly," he said. "The FDA's involved now. They've been trying to pin something on Maureen's group for years, but without hard evidence, it's always slipped through." "I gave you hard evidence," I said. "You did. But the media is faster than the feds. They're going to twist it. Frame it like some wellness experiment gone wrong. She has PR firms on speed dial. Lawyers. Investors." I looked over at Riley, who hadn't spoken since the segment started. "She's already destroying Riley," I said. "That's why we act now," he said. "I need a statement. From both of you." We met Grant that night at a neutral location, a quiet, windowless office space he rented for freelance investigations. Riley was pale, eyes sunken from a week of restless sleep, but she came anyway. She needed to. Because this wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about reclaiming control. Over our names. Over our story. Over what they tried to take from us. I gave my statement first. Detailed. Honest. Everything from the moment the chocolates arrived to the moment Maureen's voice cracked on the phone. Riley went second. Her hands trembled at first, but her voice was strong. She admitted what she'd done, what she hadn't stopped, and what it felt like, realizing your own mother used you and your husband as pawns in a chemical experiment she wrapped in pretty packaging and called love. Grant nodded the whole time, taking notes. "This," he said when we finished, "isn't just a lawsuit." I looked at him. "This is a reckoning." The next 48 hours were a blur. We were contacted by 2 news outlets, one biotech watchdog group, and believe it or not, a documentary team out of San Francisco. Suddenly, our story wasn't just ours. It was a symbol of wealth gone unchecked, of benevolent cruelty wrapped in elegance, of what happens when people with money believe they're above the rules. Maureen's lawyers released a statement calling the whole thing an unfortunate miscommunication, denying the experimental nature of the chocolates, and accusing us of emotional defamation. They even tried to say we had doctored evidence for attention. That's when Grant pulled the real trump card. He released a confidential document from NeuroVita, a lab report, dated, signed, including Riley's name under a test subject category labeled unauthorized exposure, emotional instability observed. They weren't just experimenting. They were documenting it. Without consent, without ethics, without care. And just like that, the narrative flipped. Riley became a victim, not just of a failed marriage or a manipulative mother, but of a science project disguised as parental concern. I became the guy who almost ate a chemical cocktail on his birthday and only survived because someone else made a selfish choice. That irony, it was hard to swallow, but it also saved me. We spent the next few weeks meeting with lawyers, giving controlled interviews, setting boundaries. Our faces were blurred in some segments, shown in others. We started getting messages. Hundreds of them. Some were horrifying. Others, humbling. People saying they'd experienced similar things, family members who used their wealth or status to control behavior, threaten mental health, or manipulate identity. We weren't alone. We just happened to be the story that finally broke through. One night, as we sat on the back porch again, like we had that first night after it all started, Riley turned to me and whispered, "Do you think she'll ever admit what she really did?" I shook my head. "No. Because people like her don't see what they do is wrong." "Then what's the point of all this?" she asked. I looked up at the stars, barely visible through the city glow. "The point," I said, "is that we're not staying quiet." 6 months later, my birthday came around again. But this time, there was no mysterious box. No chilled packaging, no phone call from a manipulative woman trying to control my brain chemistry. Just me, Riley, a warm slice of chocolate cake, and peace. A lot happened between then and now. Maureen's case made national headlines, not just because of the experimental compound, but because of the pattern it revealed, a trail of manipulation disguised as maternal concern. They uncovered multiple names, recipients of her gifts, former employees silenced by NDAs and settlements, friends of the family whose children were sent care packages that contained more than candy. The FDA slapped her with multiple violations. Her biotech investments were frozen. NeuroVita was finally and officially shut down. She still wasn't in prison, of course. Money buys time. But her reputation? Gone. She'd spent a lifetime crafting the illusion of brilliance. And now? She was just another scandal with too many zeros in the headline. As for Riley, she left her job, started therapy, rebuilt her boundaries, not just with her mother, but with herself. We both did. Because this wasn't just about what Maureen did to us. It was about what we almost let become normal. The silence. The second-guessing. The way we both learned to dismiss the alarms in our gut because someone older, louder, or wealthier insisted they knew better. Not anymore. We moved out of the city. Not far, just enough to breathe. Bought a fixer-upper outside Tacoma with a wraparound porch and too much backyard, which Max, our loyal Labrador, claimed immediately. I started working remotely, finally saying yes to a consulting job I'd turned down before because I didn't think I was impressive enough. Riley? She started writing again. It wasn't planned, just something that poured out of her after everything. Blog posts, essays, eventually a book deal. The topic? How it feels to be reprogrammed by your own family. Raw, bold, beautifully uncomfortable. She told the truth, and people listened. I still get emails about the story. From strangers. From survivors. From people who never even knew they were victims of soft abuse until they read our experience. It turns out, betrayal wrapped in good intentions is more common than we think. And people like Maureen? They rely on silence. They count on you second-guessing your instincts. They need you to feel crazy so they can keep feeling righteous. That's what she never expected. That we'd speak up. That we'd turn the spotlight around and say, no, this is what it really looks like. So when my birthday rolled around this year, I made one simple request. No gifts. No surprises. Just dinner and honesty. And that's what I got. We grilled steaks on the patio. Max laid in the grass with one ear up like he was eavesdropping. Riley lit a candle in the cake and handed me a card that simply said, "You saved yourself. But you saved me too. Happy birthday to the man who couldn't be broken." Sometimes I still think about that first box of chocolates. The chill of the ice pack. The perfect golden tray. The moment I almost ate one, just to be polite. And I wonder, what would have happened if I had? Would I have noticed something was off? Would I have blamed stress? Would I have apologized for changing and not even known why? That box, that gift, it didn't just contain a substance. It contained a warning. And it reminded me that the most dangerous betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's wrapped in silk ribbon and labeled for your own good. But now I know better. And the people who tried to rewrite me, they underestimated the most important thing. I was never broken, just buried. And now I'm wide awake. Thank you for following this emotional, dramatic, and deeply personal story from start to finish.